Something is happening in Cincinnati, and Alex Eala hasn't even played her first match yet. The court is waiting. The opponent is waiting. But the fans? They're already moving. Tickets for Alex's Cincinnati appearance are disappearing before she has even hit a single ball. So why is this happening? Why are fans rushing to see Alex before her first point? And how did the number 17 seed suddenly create this kind of demand? But here's what makes this even more surprising. Nobody expected this to happen before the match even started. And if you're a true tennis lover, hit that button right now. We're on our Tennis Hive 500 subscribers challenge. If you love tennis, support Alex Eala, and want to be part of this growing community, subscribe and join the Hive. Because what is happening in Cincinnati could be much bigger than one sold-out session. The story begins with Alex arriving in Cincinnati with incredible momentum. After her historic Washington run, her name suddenly carried a completely different weight. Before Washington, fans already knew she was talented. They knew about the left-handed game. They knew about her confidence. They knew she could challenge bigger names. But Washington changed the conversation. Alex didn't just show potential. She delivered. She won the biggest title of her career. And suddenly, people who had followed her journey had something real to celebrate. A major WTA title. A breakthrough moment. Proof that Alex Eala could step onto a big stage and take control of it. And then came Cincinnati. A bigger tournament. A bigger field. And now a much bigger spotlight. Alex enters Cincinnati as the number 17 seed. That number alone shows how far she has come. But if you only looked at the draw, you might think Alex was simply another seeded player preparing for another tournament. Look at the fans, though, and the picture changes. They aren't simply waiting to see how far Alex goes. They're already trying to make sure they can see her. That is where the ticket story becomes fascinating. Because tickets are one thing when a player is expected to be popular. But when fans start rushing for availability before the player even steps onto the court, that tells you something has changed. Alex isn't simply attracting attention. She is creating urgency. People don't want to hear about the match afterward. They don't want to watch a few highlights later. They want to be there. And that difference matters. Think about how a normal tennis fan chooses a session. They check the schedule. They look at the players. They compare matches. Maybe they decide which session offers the best lineup. But for many Alex fans, the question is much simpler. When is Alex playing? Once they know the session, the next question becomes, can I get a ticket? And when those tickets begin disappearing, the urgency gets even stronger. That is what makes Cincinnati so interesting. The demand is arriving before the actual tennis has even started. And there's another reason this feels different. Alex has a fan base that isn't simply watching her as another tennis player. For Filipino and Filipino-American fans, her rise means something more. A Filipino player is entering major American tennis events as a serious seeded competitor. She isn't simply trying to get noticed anymore. She is already being noticed. After Washington, that feeling became even stronger. Fans saw the title. They saw the celebration. They saw Alex standing on the biggest stage of her career. And suddenly, Cincinnati became the next opportunity. The next chapter. The next place where fans could say, I was there. That feeling can be incredibly powerful. People don't just buy tickets for tennis. Sometimes they buy tickets because they believe they're witnessing the beginning of something. And Alex's rise has created exactly that feeling. But now comes the question Cincinnati has to deal with. What happens when demand becomes bigger than expected? Because if Alex's match is attracting this much attention, the tournament has to think about more than tickets. It has to think about the crowd, the court, the seating, and the flow of fans. Imagine hundreds or thousands of people arriving with one specific purpose. They aren't necessarily there for the entire schedule. They came because Alex Eala is playing. That changes everything. Suddenly, court assignment matters. Capacity matters. And the difference between a smaller court and the main court becomes much more important. Because Alex is the number 17 seed. That means she deserves respect. But tennis tournaments also have their traditional hierarchy. The biggest established stars naturally attract attention. Iga Swiatek, Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff. These are names tournament organizers already understand. Their demand isn't a mystery. But Alex's rise has happened much faster. And that creates a different kind of challenge. Because what do you do when the ranking says one thing, but the crowd says something else? Do you simply follow the seed number, or do you follow the demand? That is the question Cincinnati now has to answer. And this is where the story becomes bigger than tickets. A sold-out or rapidly disappearing ticket supply is a signal. It tells the tournament, people want Alex. They want to see her. They want to experience this moment now. Before the next title. Before the next ranking jump. Before Alex becomes an even bigger name. Fans feel like they are getting in early. They aren't looking back at a legend's career. They're watching a career being built in real time. And that makes every tournament feel more important. But there's another side Alex herself has to handle. A bigger crowd brings bigger expectations. Imagine Alex walking onto the court and seeing Filipino flags in the stands. Hearing people shout her name. Knowing fans fought for tickets just to watch her play. That can create incredible energy. But it can also create pressure. Alex still has to serve, return, move, fight, stay calm, and win points. The crowd cannot hit the ball for her. The ticket demand cannot win a match. And the Washington title cannot guarantee what happens next. Alex still has to prove herself every time she steps on a court. And that is what makes Cincinnati so interesting. Because now there are really two stories happening at once. There is Alex Eala, the tennis player. And then there is Alex Eala, the phenomenon. The player is preparing for her opponent. The phenomenon is attracting fans before the match even begins. The player is focused on the next point. The phenomenon is creating conversations around the tournament. And those two worlds are now colliding. Cincinnati is not simply another stop after Washington. It is a test of whether Alex can carry her momentum into a bigger environment, with bigger expectations, and an even bigger audience waiting for her. And here is the biggest question. What happens if Alex wins? Think about it. The tickets are already disappearing. The excitement is already building. Fans are already eager to see her. But what if she starts winning again? What if Cincinnati becomes another deep run? What if Alex reaches the later rounds? What if the Washington title wasn't the peak of the story, but the beginning? Then the pressure on future tournaments could become even greater. Because organizers won't just be asking where Alex should play. They may have to ask, how big does the stage need to be? That is why this Cincinnati ticket story matters. Alex Eala hasn't even played her first match, yet fans are already making their choice. They want to see her. They want to be there. The ranking says number 17, but the ticket demand is telling a different story. Alex has gone from a promising young player to a WTA champion and now to someone fans simply don't want to miss. And Cincinnati is the next test. So tell me in the comments, should Cincinnati treat Alex like the number 17 seed, or like the crowd attraction she is rapidly becoming? And if you believe Alex Eala's story is only getting started, join the Tennis Hive 500 Subscribers Challenge. Hit subscribe and become part of the Hive. Because Alex Eala is no longer arriving quietly. The crowd is already waiting.